Hi. I think most of you folks may know me as Dickie Gage. Born and raised in Phoebus. Still like to think of that as, a great place that to have come from. But I wanted to bring something to your attention now that I've mentioned to people over the years, but I just never really thought about saying anything about it until Natalie, my wife, just recently told me there was a book coming out about this type of thing again. I don't know anything about what these people are writing. I do know that the experience I'm going to tell you about was a whole lot different than what they're going to tell you about. In '72, I left the police department, went to work for the VA center. While there, I had an accident. The accident resulted in my having a major bruise on the lower right rib cage near the stomach. That thing went on for months. The whole time I worked there, I transferred to the Marshal Service in '73, and I was still having problems with it then. But the doctors just said it was a major bruise, it would heal up in time. That went on until about 1976. In April of 1976, and there was pain on occasion from it, but in '76 I started bleeding very bad internally. And passing all this blood, I became weak and always being kind of afraid of doctors and hospitals. I really didn't want to go to a hospital or a doctor, but when I got weak enough, my wife Natalie hauled me down to Williamsburg General Hospital. When we got there, they rushed me in. They started pumping blood into me. Evidently, I'd lost a lot of blood. And at a point, they said that I needed to be moved to another hospital that could handle my needs. So they moved me up to Richmond Memorial Hospital in Richmond, Virginia. While there, they did some more tests on me, and then they put me up in the intensive care unit. And I'd been in there maybe an hour or so. I didn't know at the time, but my wife said the doctors had told her the chances of me surviving were rather slim. But anyway, after being in there for a short period of time, I dozed off, and when I woke up again, I was just totally driven nuts by a dream that I had experienced while I passed off. And this dream was so realistic, and it was kind of made me feel euphoric. So I, in turn, I really had a hard time explaining it to anybody, but at the same time I also had this desire to tell the doctor about it, and because I was curious what kind of drugs he'd given me to have such a dream. The surgeon eventually operated on me, and they removed a large tumor from my abdomen area. It had grown to the point where they compared it as a 16-pound birth to a child, a cesarean type of birth to a child. But anyway, the loss of blood came from the smashed. It had smashed my spleen and the varices arteries in my esophagus. But anyway, I kept driving Dr. Bird. He was a surgeon in Richmond. I kept asking him why this dream. He told me we'd discuss it later on. He said, when I get ready to release you, I'll make sure we sit down and discuss it. Needless to say, I asked him every time I visited him, but I kept seeing him until about August. In August, I was being released to go back to work with the Marshal Service, and I asked him, I said, hey, now how about the dream? I need to ask you about it. And he told me that he was a MASH surgeon in Korea, and that he had heard about these dreams on many occasions, and they couldn't explain it. And I asked him, I said, well, in this particular dream, I said, I was playing cards with Spunky Paul, or Spunky Harrison. He was my cousin with his mother, who was my aunt. And I said, no, I met bunch of people there, and I mean, tell you, it was the most comfortable place I'd ever been in my entire life. And he told me, he says, yeah, he says, I understand what you're saying, and of course, this lady's dead, isn't she? I said, sure, she's been dead since the late 60s. He said, well, he says, that's the same dream all the guys told me about. It's pretty much the same. He said, but I'm going to ask you a few questions. He said, how many of the people that you were talking to in that dream or dealing with were alive? And I'd give it some thought because I really never paid that much attention to it before, but none of them were alive. And then he asked me 3 things I hadn't expected and I really never gave any thought to. He asked me what she looked like and how she was dressed. And unfortunately, I don't remember seeing her. I was there with her and I remember seeing the cards as far as cards were concerned, but I didn't physically see them. And he asked me what her voice sounded like, and I had to be honest with him. I told him I didn't physically hear her either, but I was there with her. And he asked me about the environment and whatever, and I told him it was a very warm, comfortable, bright environment that I could have gone to sleep there. I said it was that comfortable. And I said on top of that, everything that went on around me I was so interested in. And he said, yeah, he says, that sounds about right. He said, but the thing about it, Dick, he said, I can't tell you. I can't tell you what's wrong, what caused that. Well, he said, but I can tell you when the dream took place. He said, while you were in the intensive care unit, you died. He said, you were dead for a while. And he says, and you come up with this dream thing right after that. I said, yeah. I said, I died? He said, oh yeah, you died. I said, well, how long? He said, don't make any difference. A minute, 2 minutes, whatever. He says, you were dead. He says, I got a call. I rushed down there. You had been revived by the time I got there. And he says, evidently you started talking about this dream when they woke you up. I said, all right. I said, so what does this mean? He says, I have no idea. He said, I'll just tell you that it's one of these things that we can't explain. Well, over the years, I told my mother about it before she died. I told a number of people about it. I don't know if that was death, and I don't know any religious connotations associated with it. I just know that it was very nice, and I'm not afraid of dying anymore. Don't know that I was really afraid, but if I was, I don't have any fear of it now. And if that is death, I mean, I tell you, it's a lot better than life in some cases. Not that I think it would be a good idea for anybody to hurt themselves or do anything stupid, but it would be nice anyway after you're gone. Just thought I'd tell you about it. Goodbye.